here at GitLab. I'm here for the ops section group conversation. I had a couple of slides that had content callouts on the second slide, slide number 2. Just wanted to voice over some of those. The first one is that as a result of our FY 2021 planning, we are actually consolidating what was previously 2 configure teams into one. And I just wanted to give a shout out to all the configure team members and Sam, the director of engineering, for orchestrating that. I think it's gone very smoothly. I know that's been painful for some team members to be switching groups, but everyone's been really open and collaborative and communicated about that change really effectively. So I'm really proud of that. And one of those changes is also that Daniel Grusso, the longtime configure product manager, is going to be moving to a different group in the dev section on source control. Really excited about that opportunity for Daniel. He has some previous history there, and I think he'll do great in that new group. But I wanted to thank him for everything he's done for the configure group, including, launching auto DevOps and our serverless functionality and starting our Kubernetes management functionality, all were a part of the great work that Daniel has contributed. So thank you, Daniel. We also have been heavily focused in this section on dogfooding. And so there's a specific dogfooding update about how we're encouraging and using our monitor section, our monitor stage tools in our infrastructure team. So please check out that update. And then we've been doing a lot more briefings, and kudos to Joyce for coordinating those, but we've been getting out with the analyst community, briefing them on our capabilities here. For most of them, it's totally new idea that we also do this kind of ops part of the DevOps lifecycle set of tools. It's really great to get them informed and to get their feedback. Things I'm really looking forward to are our status page MVC, which is really key to unlocking the dogfooding of our incident management within our infrastructure team so that they can work their issues in a separate instance, but post the updates of those issues publicly to our status page, which is really key function that the monitor health team has pivoted to working on as an MVC over this 12.9 release, and we'll continue some work in 12.10. And then we've also been ramping up on our infrastructure as code. We have a planned kind of marketing campaign for infrastructure as code and GitOps, and I'm really excited about what our current capabilities are, as well as some features that the configure team are planning on working. Special kudos to Brad Downey, who I saw on this call. Brad has been really instrumental. He's kind of a subject matter expert in this area and has been helping out the entire team. He even did a quick demo for a problem we were trying to solve on the fly on Friday. So thank you, Brad. We were talking about dashboard dogfooding, so that's been a key component. Andrew Newdigate has been especially helpful in building some scripts that help us quickly convert our current Grafana dashboards into GitLab dashboards and then find the places where they kind of don't look right or don't make sense. That's been really helpful for Dove and the Monitor APM team. And then I've been hearing this, our last GC was 6 weeks ago. I've been hearing this really frequently. In fact, an analyst even said this bluntly to us in a briefing, that we should really consider renaming our monitor stage to something more akin to observability. I've heard it in a couple of other places, including from Kevin Chu, our new group manager who covers the ops section, as well as I think Sarah Waldner was doing a CEO shadow with Sid and mentioned that she was hearing that from analysts and other sources at kind of that level. So signs are pointing that way, and I think Kevin actually has an open MR to do that. So those were my content highlights. Let's jump to questions. I'm gonna move my windows, so sorry if I'm reading off to the side and not looking at everybody. Sid, you have the first question.
Yeah, before I do that, have you considered making a video, Kenny?
Have I considered making a video of, sorry.
So with your opening remarks now, have you considered making a video instead and sending that out beforehand? That's the advice on the group conversation page. So you can have it slightly longer, you can present some slides, and we can use this time for synchronous communication.
Perfect, yes, I will do that, thank you.
Cool. Yeah, observability came up. It seems to be the hot and happening term. So we talked about that. However, the naming convention of our thing is not verification, it's verify. It's not monitoring, it's monitor. So if you take observability and you say observe, that doesn't make any sense anymore. So that's kind of the thing we discussed and struggle with.
Agreed, and I think that's an open discussion in the MR. I don't have an immediate solution to it. Maybe just to echo the sentiment I heard from analysts was that saying a word like observability in today's context implies that we are more modern and future facing rather than saying a word like monitor. So maybe if we just keep that in mind, that whatever verb we choose one that connotates that same thought, that, we're cloud native first, that we're in this more developer DevOps paradigm.
And results over consistency. So if we want to name it observability, even though it's not consistent with the other stages, I'm willing to discuss that. You say that there's an MR from the presentation. It just links to the aesthetic page. So it might be good to link that instead.
The MR is not quite ready to go. I'll have something this week.
Is there an MR or is the MR not ready?
No, there's no MR yet.
Oh,
Sorry,
there's no
Kevin.
MR.
I misspoke.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for presenting the dogfooding initiatives. Really, really important. You see how the usage numbers, we get less than 1,000 users for most of the functionality here. We're working on it with multiple teams. So we got to get our usage up, and we know that the first user should be GitLab itself. What I see in the slide and in the epic is a bit like, we're going to clone multiple dashboards. We're going to make improvements, and then we're going to shut some other things down. What I suggested earlier was to take one dashboard, move that, shut the old one down, and go dashboard by dashboard. Because only when you shut something down, you're going to hear the real feedback. Only when you shut something down, everyone is going to be like, oh, I now have to pay attention. And by delaying that, by doing more, you're going to delay the real feedback. It's super easy. You can just keep working on cloning things for half a year, but you're going to get the real feedback as soon as you shut something down. So instead of doing that in a batch, which delays it, think about doing that per dashboard. Just take one dashboard. If we get one dashboard moved, that's 100 times better than cloning 100 dashboards and not shutting any of them down. And we iterate. So we take the smallest possible task. The smallest possible task is not shutting down 100 dashboards, it's shutting down a single one.
Cool, understood. Dove would probably be the best comment on that discussion with the infra team, but
I could respond to that.
oh yeah, sure.
Also, in that I think there's been some, totally agree with the sentiment there in terms of how the project has been progressing, and Andrew and NuGet has been a huge help with this. We've basically come up with a way where we can take all of the existing dashboard configurations that the infrastructure team uses to generate Grafana dashboards, and we can hook into that same pipeline in order to generate GitLab configurations for all of them. And so, we found that the bottleneck is not really converting the number of the number of dashboards that we are converting is not the bottleneck, but rather there are several kind of key deficiencies in the way that the charts are visualized and the dashboards work that are preventing us from cutting over, but those are now prioritized. So the idea is to basically get to that point where we're shutting off dashboards and like fully cutting over as quickly as possible. But the number of dashboards involved with it at this stage is kind of not a bottleneck.
That's cool. And we should discuss that a bit further because this sounds too good to be true. And it's amazing that I believe that it's true. So this is amazing. So we should talk about that. However, I wouldn't talk about shutting down dashboards. Step one is shutting down a single dashboard. Mm-hmm. That is the smallest possible thing. So let's go for that first. If we can get a single dashboard shut down, that would be amazing. If you talk about shutting down dashboards, it almost feels like you have to complete all the work. And that will take an order of magnitude more time. So,
yeah, and I agree. I think we probably are falling a little bit into that trap of, we're asking this infrastructure team to take a couple of steps back, and it's a harder bites to chew if those steps back are happening across all dashboards. So if it's just on one, we can get that kind of immediate. What I don't know is their workflow. It might not be valuable at all to have just one dashboard that then they have to switch between Grafana and the others. So, but
it's not as great.
There are some kind of key dashboards that are used for SLA reporting or kind of high level summaries, and so there's definitely a set of them. I think that there's one in the issue that Dove had linked. I don't have it offhand, but in terms of what would be the first one where we would say this public dashboard or frequently used dashboard that people are looking at in Grafana, that's been removed, and now we can make the GitLab version the official one. And we're looking at basically being able to do that with 1210. The other thing we're looking at is trying to, make sure that we're managing the risk in that project in terms of like, will we be there to deliver that? But that's the goal at this point, and I think that we're in a good position to be able to hit that, to say, end of April, we've shut off one dashboard.
Awesome. That's a great goal, and that's super exciting. Hey, you talked about this magic where you're able to translate the Grafana configuration into GitLab configuration. That is very exciting. I can't believe, or I can believe because you're saying it, but that's amazing that we're able to do that. That sounds really, so we're able to import Grafana configuration and spew out GitLab configuration?
Not exactly. Let me explain kind of what we're doing. That the infrastructure team, there's a repository called Runbooks in which they store all of the configurations or kind of meta configurations for their Grafana dashboards and alerts. So there's a set of configuration files that are written in JSONet, which is kind of a JSON variant where you can do, it's good for kind of templating this type of stuff. And then at the end of a CI pipeline, that generates Grafana configurations, calls out to their API, and that's how the dashboards are configured. And what that allows, Andrew's put a lot of work into this in terms of templating those dashboards and metrics, so that, because generally what they want is not a bunch of totally different dashboards, but a dashboard that is consistent, but then you can look at this service or this service or this service and see kind of key metrics in that. So the template, the JS Sonnet allows them to do templating and kind of have that metadata drive a whole set of dashboards. And essentially what we've been able to do, or Andrew was able to show us how to do, is at that same moment where we say call out to Grafana and update all of the configs based on this JSONet configuration, JS Sonnet configuration, do the same thing for GitLab dashboards. And so we can basically replicate both of those. And at this point, there are things that the Grafana ones do, but that the GitLab ones don't. But that's kind of the point, is that it makes it very clear where those gaps are and helps us see that evolution as the GitLab ones improve, and then we're able to say, shut off a dashboard.
Awesome, that's really great. And there's probably no other companies using the same JSONet style of configuration that's unique to GitLab, or are other people using the same?
I don't know if it's unique to GitLab. It's definitely not a well-accepted standard. The kind of thinking in terms of how we're approaching it, and this was also driven by some feedback from Andrew, is not to build JS Sonnet natively into our dashboards, but and Grafana has something like this, to be able to say have a library where you could have there's configurations. There's a Grafana JS Sonnet library that then can convert those into Grafana API calls, or that format. And so we can do the same thing where we can have a
my thinking is more like, if other people have the same thing, we should build an importer and stuff that into GitLab so people can convert. But if it's not used by other people, we don't need to.
Yeah, and that's something we're discussing in terms of the market saturation or market share of that approach. I don't know, but the idea is to have a API level where we generate our static dashboard configs and then be able to convert from other formats, so JS Sonnet in this case. And so you could in theory build a bunch of converters from different standard formats and be able to just say plug those into our dashboarding system.
Cool. Yeah, just having the start of a converter would be nice, because probably everyone's already doing it and they have to switch. Very cool. I'll move on. I don't see other questions, so I'll keep asking questions, but skip me if other people ask questions. We're dogfooding the error tracking that's done in issue number 7. I'd love to get a bit of a status update. Seems that our error tracking is already pretty mature, so I wonder how that's going.
Yep, thanks for the question, Sid. We had a couple additional features that we're going to ship for that category on February 22nd. So before we did recorded a live demo internally and distributed that to main stakeholders. We wanted to wait for those to go. So up until this point, we've done, I've been working with the delivery team and a couple of members of SRE to solicit feedback. You can see that documented on the issue. There's a couple of blocking items for them, which I would need to prioritize in line with the other work that the health team is working on to get them onto it. We are just starting to socialize this with the broader engineering team. So next step is to record that demo and get it distributed to main stakeholders.
Cool, thanks for that. And then the auto DevOps success pipelines, or pipeline success, that's amazing. Are we measuring like all the other DevOps pipelines on GitLab.com, but in like an aggregated way, but other people's pipeline in an aggregated way? And can we maybe show a percentage success rate or something like that? Because that seems like the metric you probably want to watch.
Yeah, I can take that. So this is the ticket I worked on. We like the metric that we have linked from there, I believe, is just the raw metric. But I have started playing around with a dashboard where we can see the success rates, and I'll link it in the doc.
Cool, thanks. And really smart. Like that is way less work than setting up our own synthetic monitoring for other DevOps. It's going to give you way better signal. So I love it.
All right, any other questions? Once, twice. All right, thanks everybody. Have a great day.